And I think that was my first journey to Islamic economics and Islamic finance. Really. Are you crazy? I said, why am I crazy? Why are you teaching this course? I said, why? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one who teaches the Quran, Hadith and so on. Allah, His angels and all the creations in the earth, including the what you call the worms in the earth, including the fish in the water, will make supplications for you, provided you are sincere. I wish and I hope that whatever I teach today will be beneficial for the people who learn from.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bersama saya, Syed Othman Alhabshi pada ASAS, Very ASAS Podcast yang dipanggil program ni. Kita akan menebubual seorang tokoh dalam kewangan Islam di Malaysia dan juga di antarabangsa, iaitu yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Syed Othman bin Syed Hussein Alhabshi yang juga merupakan tokoh perdana tahun 2023. Selamat datang, Prof. Saya panggil Prof.
Boleh.
Panggil Prof. Takut tersasul pula nanti kan, sebab tak biasa panggil Prof kat rumah. Prof, kita nak buat podcast ni untuk nak sampaikan sebarang nasihat, cerita latar belakang kisah Prof dalam kewangan Islam dan juga Islamic economics, supaya moga dapat dimanfaatkan oleh viewers kita dan moga dapat memberikan mereka motivasi untuk meneruskan perjuangan kewangan Islam di Malaysia dan juga di pesada antarabangsa. So I'm very happy to be interviewing you formally. Biasanya I interview kat rumah informally. I have known you for 41 consecutive years of my life. But I think most people here would not have, some may not have known you as long as I have, or some may not have known you even longer. But we would like to have this journey of your life story. Maybe we can start with a trip down the memory lane. What are your specific stories that you can share with us in relation to your early education, your graduate, your postgraduate, and your journey of education in Islamic finance? Silakan, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Ashrafil Anbiya wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with viewers my own background in education, especially in Islamic economics and Islamic finance. Basically, one of the things that I always remember and I will never forget is the fact that in order to have a very good background, a very good foundation for anything that is Islamic, is basically the Quran. What I'm saying is, if you can read the Quran very well, to the extent that you can even become the imam for prayers, without any problem, and people would accept you because of your pronunciation, your makhraj, and so on, right? Your tajweed and so on, and there is no problem, right? So if that be the case, in other words, you have been trained very well for the Quran, then you will find towards the later life, right, like in my case, that particular ability, right, helps me a lot in order to read whatever text in Arabic. Whether I understand or not, it doesn't matter, but I can read very well. At the same time, there are certain words that I will learn, I will understand the meanings of each, right? And that will make me understand something about whatever I read, right? And that comes because of your ability to read the Quran from very, very young. That is one of the things that I think is very, very important. Um,
Any specific examples about how the Quran or reciting the Quran? Any experience that you can share, like in primary school, etc.?
you see, what happens is I used to recite the Quran even when I play the marble or when I play the gasing at the top. As I play, I will be reciting the Quran, and my father would be looking at me from the window of the house down to see me reciting the Quran. And at that time, maybe I was 4 years old, 3, 4 years old. And then at the same time, you know, I was brought to the school at a very early age to be registered as a student of the primary school, right? The law at that time or the rule is that you must at least be 6 years old, but I was way before 6 years old, and my father brought me to the school together with my elder brother, who was 1 year older than me. So he was having no problem to be registered because he was already 6, but not me. So the headmaster interviewed me and asked my father, what can he do? So my father said, he can read the Quran. So he said, can you read the Quran? Actually, the day before, I was just taught Surah Al-Ghashiyah. That is, Hal Ataka Hadithul Ghashiyah. I was just taught that particular surah, the whole surah, by my Quranic teacher. And that very day itself, that is the next day when I was in school, I just recited the Surah Al-Ghashiyah without looking at it, memorizing it immediately. So the headmaster asked me, when did you learn this? I said, yesterday. He was so shocked. Immediately he accepted me as a student. And what happens is when I was the dean of economics in UIA, in Islamic University, so I was interviewing students, to join the faculty at the time. There was one Indonesian student who came 1 month earlier than the date of interview, and he came because he wanted to learn English. Then I asked him, "Can you read the Quran?" He said, "Yes." So he said, "Can you read Surah Al-Ghashiyah?" So he read Surah Al-Ghashiyah. When he finished reading Surah Al-Ghashiyah, he wanted to read Al-A'la, Sabbih, I said, no need, no need. Al-Ghashiyah is enough. I accept you right now. He was so shocked. Now he's a professor in one of the Middle East universities, professor of Islamic economics. This is why I said the Quran will help. One is in terms of actually reading and understanding. The other is the intrinsic interest in you. When you hear about something Islamic, like in my case, I was doing economics, nothing to do with Islam, right? But when I heard that people talk about Islamic economics, that time I was doing my master's already in US. And I was doing masters in statistics, not in economics, in statistics. And then I heard that there was a conference on Islamic economics. Oh, what is this? So I went. And because of that, Quran actually made me very interested to learn about something related to Islam, which in this case is Islamic economics. And I think that was my first journey to Islamic economics and Islamic finance, really.
Interesting. You mentioned about being the dean of economics. You were the first dean of the Islamic economics in UIA, but I think you were teaching Islamic economics before that as well. At a time where there was no reference or textbook on Islamic economics. Can you share with us how did you manage to convince people to establish Islamic economics as a subject or course?
Well, at that time, before I joined the International Islamic University, I was actually teaching in University Kebangsaan, National University. And I was also the dean of the Faculty of Economics at that time, at my very early age. And when I was the dean, there was a conference somewhere in London. So I asked for permission to attend that conference. I attended the conference and I read a lot of such papers in English. So I understood what they were talking about. People like Najatullah Siddiqui was there and so on. So I came back, then I thought about it. That was in 1975 when I went. In 1976, I said I want to introduce Islamic economics in the university. So I started teaching Islamic economics as part of a course that I was teaching, right? So the some people, I mean, in fact, one of the lecturers, in fact, he came and told me, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Why am I crazy? Why are you teaching this course?" I said, "Why?" Because there is no such textbooks like Samuelson, in economics, Samuelson and so on. I said, "Yeah, but there is better than Samuelson, which is the Quran. So you can't deny that." I said. So because of that, he kept quiet. But at the same time, I had some problems with some other people in the university. Some people feel that it is not people like me who have no Sharia, no Islamic background, nothing, what you call official, you know, to be teaching Islamic economics. So these people who come from the Sharia background, Islamic background, and so on, they oppose me teaching at that time. People from Faculty Islam oppose me teaching. Then I said, you must know economics before you teach Islamic economics. Islam, everybody knows. I said, but economics, not everybody knows. So you must know economics before you can teach Islamic economics. Then they kept quiet. Alhamdulillah. So that was my first experience in 1976 that I was teaching Islamic economics. So because of that, people came to know about me because of my students and so on. So when IIUM was established in 1983, which is about what?
41 years.
Yeah,
My
76.
birthday.
76, 83. So we later, then they recognized me as one of those who should be leading the Faculty of Economics in IIUM. So I was made the dean right from day one.
At that time, Prof. Tan Sri Ahmad Ibrahim was also
Yeah,
there.
he was leading the law faculty, and then Professor Kamal Hassan was leading the what you call the pengajian umum or something like that.
Any interesting conversation or anecdotes or stories with Prof. Tan Sri Ahmad
A
Ibrahim?
lot. Well, one thing about him is he's very quiet. He doesn't talk very much. Yeah, but one interesting thing happened to me was when both of us were invited to attend a conference in Singapore. So I was going to talk about, I think it was on riba. And I was looking at the Quran, the translation of the Quran by Yusuf Ali, right, in English. So I was looking for the verse about the riba. And Tan Sri Ahmad Ibrahim was right in front of me. He was just looking at me and then he said, give me the Quran. So he took the Quran from me and then he turned the pages and said, this is the ayah you are looking for. I didn't even tell him what I was talking about. He simply showed me. Fantastic man. So I was shocked. Yeah, it is true. Yeah. So, and many other things. There was one time when I was discussing in his room regarding zakat, and I was saying that there was no rule regarding the obligation of Muslims to pay zakat. He said, no, it is not true. There is already the enactment in the Islamic religious councils and so on. So he showed me the enactment, the rule in the book. You went to his, bookshelf, and then you just pick up a book, then you open the page. Yeah, yeah. Oh boy, fantastic, man.
Those kind of great legends, you learn a lot from being in contact or in communication with them. So can you share what if we are meeting with a legend, right, or someone who is great, how do we make sure that we get as much knowledge that we can get from that conversation? What is the method that would be the best to extract this information or knowledge from them?
I think you have to show that you do not know anything. You don't know anything. You want to learn from him. In other words, you have to be very, very humble, right? Imagine that you don't know anything, and then you start asking simple, simple questions. People like him, the moment you ask him a simple question, he will give you a very elaborate answer. You will learn a lot. Very elaborate. Yeah? That's one man. The other man that I know is Professor Arif, who is still alive. Professor Arif, who was from University of Malaya. He was also my head at one time. And that guy, if you ask him a question, small question, he will give you an elaboration that will never stop. You can go on and on and on, that kind of person. So it's fantastic, and you can learn so much from him.
We touch about humility. I think because we don't have a proper flow, we'll just go with the flow. They say, as they say. When we talk about humility, it's a challenge actually to have this ikhlas and humility in relation to gaining knowledge or to share certain knowledge. Not only to gain but also to share. Can you share with us any tips on this, the ikhlas? How do we continue to have ikhlas so that inshallah our efforts in in educating about Islamic finance will be rewarded in this world and the hereafter?
One of the things that I learned from the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that the one who teaches the Quran, hadith, and so on, Allah, His angels, and all the creations in the earth, including the what you call the worms in the earth, including the fish in the water, will make supplications for you, provided you are sincere. So the most important thing is sincerity. Sincerity is really the humility, because you cannot be sincere if you are not humble. If you are not humble, you can never be sincere. Because if you are not humble, then there is something inside you that tells you that you want this to be known by so and so rather than for Allah. So that is why the humility is very, very important in order to be sincere. So, in other words, if you want uh, to be sincere, I think the motivation is still the hadith, right? The hadith gives you the motivation. Do you want Allah Himself, His angels, and all the creatures of the earth, right? Whether it be in the fish in the sea and the ants in the hole and so on, will supplicate for you. Imagine if you teach or if you learn the Quran and the Hadith, in other words, if you learn about Islam, if you learn about Allah. So that is a great motivation. So you have to be sincere. If you are not sincere, nothing will happen. So unless you are sincere, you cannot get anything at all. Your mark will be zero. You think that you have done 10 rakat of tahajjud, but because you are not sincere, you get nothing. So that is sincerity coming from humility. Wallahu alam.
the challenges that you face in, you mentioned earlier there were some challenges with uh, some individuals in relation to teaching Islamic economics. What other challenges did you face when you were involved also in Islamic finance, Islamic banking? Can you share those challenges? That are there any challenges that made you feel like, oh, I want to give up, I don't want to continue this anymore? And what was the motivation that lifted you up so that you continue to strive?
I think most important thing is whatever you try to do, whatever you come up with, is something that is practicable, is something that people can use, is something that people can practice immediately so that they benefit from it, right? And if you say something or you teach something that is useless, then there's no point. So, in order to teach something that is useful, then you have to have that inside you, in your heart, your sincerity. I wish and I hope that whatever I teach today will be beneficial for the people who learn from it. That is the dua that you have to make all the time. Please make this dua to yourself that whatever I teach is something that will be beneficial to the people who listen from me, right? And inshallah, Allah will help, right? But if you don't have that, what is your motivation? Why do you want to teach? Is it because you want to show that you are very clever? Is it because you want to show others that you are better than them? No, that's not the point. It can be anything, but as simple as that, you know. For example, when I was asked to give to do some research, somebody came to see me and asked me to conduct a research. He said, "I get some money for you. You can do the research." I said, "I want something that can be practiced." He was shocked. Why? I said, if it can't be practiced, there's no point. We are talking about Islamic finance. This was in IIUM. The research director came to me and asked me to do research. I said, okay, I want to do something practical. Such as, I said, how can we Islamize the EPF? That was way back in 1990. I was talking about that. How to Islamize EPF funds. So this guy said, okay. So we got some money from the university, but even then the rector was making fun of us. He said like that, I said, never mind. It's always like that, you see. The challenges, so many challenges. So when you want to do something like that, people say, that was what the rector said, Abu Hamid, Abu Sulaiman. Anyway, so I said, carry on. So we carried on. I said, 70% of the returns to the fund in EPF is actually by the government. It's up to the government to make it halal or haram. If you make it interest, obviously it is haram. But if it is a profit, then it's halal, right? So you can solve by 70% already. So leaving 30%, where to go? Go to all those stocks that are Islamic. Finish. So I did that in simple terms. And then I called people like Dr. Halim, Allah Yarham, Dr. Halim Islamic Bank, from people from Benegara, Rustam, and quite about 10 people, from EPF and so on, who have been talking about Islamic finance all this while. I said, come, we go for a discussion. We went to Awana in Genting, and we stayed there for a night, and we discussed my paper. It's all approved. But unfortunately, it was never published. It was never published. When it was ready, then the rector came and took it and went to Anwar Ibrahim, at that time was Minister of Finance, and he said, "Oh, this is the best paper I ever come across." There's no, no, it's the best paper, But it was never implemented. Never implemented. I went to see the chairman of EPF at the time, Tan Sri Salehuddin. And this is what he told me. Whatever you want to do, make sure that the return is at least the same as the conventional return. I said, if it is completely Islamic, inshallah, the return will be higher than the conventional. That's what I told him. You know, so the barakah is there. You know, because I was thinking of one thing. There are many Muslims in this country who depend a lot on the EPF when they retire, right? And when they retire, what do they want to do? One of the things they want to do then is to go for Hajj. How do they go for Hajj when the EPF fund that they get from is not Islamic? It's not Sharia compliant. How do you perform Hajj? Because of that, I resolved that I must do this. That was my reason, nothing else. In order to help those people who can actually perform their Hajj without any ill feeling, that they go with halal money. That's what it is.
You mentioned Haji Rostam. I think he was also on the podcast earlier on. He was talking about when he was involved to set up the Islamic banking department, etc. And you have also been involved or in communication with Bank Negara, etc.
Yes.
Any stories that you can share in relation to your interaction with Bank Negara about Islamic finance?
Yeah, I remember talking to someone in Bank Negara to set up the Sharia department. To set up the Sharia department, the banking and Takaful department. To set it up in Bank Negara. At that time when I told them, it was not there. So I told one of the very senior officers, told him, I think it's good that you have to set this up. Then you can control the rest. Otherwise, it's difficult. And when you set up, then you have certain people to be involved. Certain people of reliable people to be involved and so on. Sharia people especially, yeah. So that's how it became, it became something that was done after that, yeah.
We've already covered, a little bit, just a tiny bit about your experience in education.
Very little. Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah. So you want about education?
I want more. I want to move towards practice. As maybe your experience as a Sharia committee or Sharia advisor, or in the practical implementation of Islamic finance.
You see, before that, I think, as you know, I was the first dean of economics in IIUM. Before that, I was the dean of economics in UKM. And I was already teaching Islamic economics. And then people found out that they said, well, this is one man who can actually lead the Faculty of Economics in IIUM, which I did. But of course, I had a lot of problems. We had 7 staff at that time, 7 lecturers only with me, only 1 Sharia. The rest all economics and so on. Only 1 Sharia person, Sabri Salamu. And so it was difficult. And no textbook, nothing, And one of the things that I did was, when we started teaching, every Saturday we had no class. So every Saturday, all of us were working at that time, half day. So Saturday for half day, we all sit down in my room and discuss what will be taught for the next week by the lecturers.
Week by week?
Yes. And then comes next Saturday, we discuss what will be taught the following week. And we did that for 1 whole year, every week, every weekend. Then, at the same time, we organized a seminar. It's a monthly seminar, right? Every seminar, there were 4 papers to be written among our lecturers. So our lecturers were writing the papers. So these papers became books later on, And all lecturers were paid because we had good response from the public. We had got about 30, 40 people to attend the conference, and they have to pay for the fees. So with the fees, we paid the lecturers, we paid the staff, and so on. And everybody was very happy. They get the money and so on. But most important thing is we compile a lot of things that we actually research on our own and finally form into books. Yeah. So we had two books, I think, one on business, another on economics. So these are things. And at the same time, the money that we collected is quite a lot. So finally, I said we put in the faculty for anybody who wants to borrow interest free. For example, our clerks and so on, they want to buy a motorbike, about 3,000-4,000, can borrow from here, pay monthly without any interest, So a lot of things can happen, So those things that I did. Anyway, but one of the other things that I did, apart from discussing among ourselves every week, we also held a conference, international conference, and we invited a lot of international scholars. And then we showed them what we were doing, the syllabus, and so on. And all of them said, whatever you are doing is okay, is good, carry on. They just say that. Whatever you are doing is good, carry on, Okay, fine. So whatever we can get, we can get hold of any important, any information regarding Islamic economics, Islamic finance, yes. Imagine there were no other university at that time which has a complete program of, say, undergraduate, Bachelor of Economics. No such thing, Islamic economics. Even the name of Bachelor of Economics, what name should we give? Is it Bachelor of Islamic Economics or Bachelor of Economics? I decided finally, I said, make it Bachelor of Economics because the university is Islamic University. You don't have to put Bachelor of Islamic Economics. Just put Bachelor of Economics. Those days, the students who come out from our university may have difficulty getting jobs if it is called Bachelor of Islamic Economics. So, Bachelor of Economics, then they can get jobs. In fact, when they first graduated, the first batch, I rang up a number of places, including Bank Negara. I told Bank Negara Deputy Governor at that time, I said, I have about 60 economics graduates who know a little bit about Sharia. Will you take some? Because I believe that Bank Negara will require them in the future, for the future. Then he said yes. So they took two of them. And so on, Interesting. And then the other thing I must say is that even in terms of other things, like people organize what do you call Pesta convocation, where the students will participate in having booth and so on, so they have some business. I say must do either mudarabah or murabaha. And then the university can give money. But mudarabah or murabaha. But some of them said, oh, we finish all the money and all done already. And no profit. Okay. But it was very, very interesting, very, to me, is useful. Give people the experience and interest to do it. And you spread it.
But in terms of practical, which bank were you first appointed to be the Sharia committee? And maybe you can share how. Because at that time there was no Sharia governance framework or policy document. I don't think there was any department in Bank Negara at that time, right?
No. I think what happened was Tan Sri Rashid Hussain.
RHB.
RHB, he wanted to establish what do you call Islamic fund. So he called Ustaz Harun Din, Dr. Harun Din, to be the chairman. And then it is Harun Din who invited his friends, to be Sharia committee. And I was one of them. And apart from me was Ahmad Awang, Sir Ahmad Awang. And then we had Ustad Hashim Yahya, I think, a few. So that's how we started, no other regulation. So we come for meetings every now and then, whenever we were invited. In fact, I even I represented RHB to go to IDB in Saudi, and so on, to ask for certain things and so on. So I used to go with the CEO of that particular fund. So quite interesting, Apart from that, I was also on Bank Rakyat, right? One of the first, in fact, the first Sharia board of Bank Rakyat, when Bank Rakyat was converting from the conventional to Islamic. First time, and I was there. And after a while, they made me the chairman of that particular committee. And it was quite interesting because everything was from scratch, They come up with all sorts of ideas, and then we have to say yes or no. So anyway, then it was the start of Bank Rakyat to become Islamic Bank, right? And later on, it took some time, especially for the loans that they have given out to be converted to Islamic loan. Can take a long time because some people refuse to do it. Anyway, finally, we managed it. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So it was completely Islamic. So I was involved in that kind of thing. Similarly, I was involved in the second Takaful company. The first Takaful company was Takaful Malaysia, which is under Islamic Bank, Bank Islam, right? But the second Takaful company was under M&I. It was called M&I Takaful. And people call it mini Takaful. So I was not very happy with the word mini Takaful. So I said, why don't we change the name to National, Takaful National? But to get the National, Takaful National must write a letter to the Minister of Home Affairs, Megat Junaid, at that time. So I was the one who signed the letter to Megat Junaid. Finally got approval for the name of the mini Takaful to become Takaful National. So Takaful National became the second Takaful company in the country, but it turned out to be one of the biggest Takaful companies in the country. Yeah. So after that, it was taken over by Maybank, right? So it became Etika Takaful, and I was still the board member from there to Etika, and I was in Etika for a long, long time. And then they made me member of the board of Maybank Islamic as well, as a member. And then I was made also Sharia, a member of Takaful, and Sharia member of Islamic Bank. So a lot of things. At one time, I had about more than 20 boards, to serve. Yeah, crazy, crazy.
How do you manage your time?
Oh, my secretary has to do it, not me.
So the key point here is to get a good secretary.
Oh yeah. Oh, fantastic! Fantastic.
The kind of things that was discussed in each different industry, like Takaful, banking, these are different areas,
Oh, yeah.
different challenges, right?
Mm.
So how did you would the experience from one allow you to be better in the other industry, or maybe you can share that the synergy?
I think the most important thing to me is understanding. Yeah, you must understand the principles. Yeah, you must understand the principles, and you must learn the principles very well. Yeah. So after learning the principles very well, after understanding the principles very well, then it's easier. If you talk about murabaha, everywhere is murabaha. If you talk about mudaraba, everywhere is mudaraba. But mudaraba is not very much used. What is used is always murabaha, right? And anyway, in banking and so on. In Takaful, only one principle, is being used, right? So it is more the tabarruk, right? And once tabarruk is applied, then it's okay, you know. So it's not very difficult as far as the principles are concerned, Sharia principles are concerned. So I don't see much problem in it, you know. It's a matter of really understanding it. Yeah. So that's one. Secondly, I think you have to participate in these committees quite actively. Participate actively. In order to do that, you have to learn, to have to read a lot of things, you know, to read all the papers and so on before you can be active in the committee. Otherwise, you cannot be active. If you're not active, then people don't like you.
I still remember following you for your Ehwal Perdana
Oh,
uh, uh, recordings all over the states, so that I get to stay at the hotel. And then I also followed you to your Yapim meetings, and I remember I brought my friend to join me, and we enjoyed the swimming pool while you were busy solving the world economic problem, etc. So uh, can you share with us those that experience that you had in when you were in Yapim? What kind of issues or interesting issues that you would like to share with our audience?
I think Yapim basically is amal jariyah. It's amal jariyah, right? So it's something that gets continuous reward, yeah, until death, you know, the amal jariyah. So that is, to me, and I mean the principles that have been laid down by Dr. Halim, especially, because he was the chairman of Yapim before me. I was the deputy, but after him, it was me who became the chairman. So when he was the chairman, he put it this way, that all donations from people, either from the public sector or private sector, 50% will be used to give away to people who ask for it. For example, for mosque, for madrasa, for schools, for poor people and whatever, you know. So 50% of the money will be spent every month for that. The other 50% to be kept, right? To be kept, to be invested as the what do you call, asset to grow, so that you can later on use such as that to give away, you know, to give away more. In other words, once we have a big asset, then whatever returns that you get, right, will easily be given out. That is the principle of Waqf, right? The principle of Waqf is do not use your capital, but use only the proceeds, right? So if you do that, then the Waqf will remain intact all the time. Yeah. This is the definition given by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? As you know, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh was participating in the war in Khaybar, and he came back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and told him that I've never received this amount of wealth that I ever received from Khaybar. What shall I do in order to make me closer to Allah? Then the Prophet said, then uh, do not spend your capital, but give away your proceeds. That's what the Prophet said. Yeah. Uh, so it's only about 4 words in Arabic, you know. Habbisil asal wasabbilis thamara. Habbis means to stop. Habbisil asal. Asal is the principle. Habbisil asal means stop your principle. Wasabbilit thamara. And sabil means to spend. Right? Sabilit thamara means the fruits. So sabilit thamara means to spend only the fruits. So your capital will remain intact all the time. And if your investment is good, you can even increase your capital. All right? You can increase your capital. And when you increase your capital, you will be able to give more later on, you know, and so on. So in fact, Waqf is very dynamic in that sense. And the first person to define it is actually the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. use that as the definition of waqf. And inshallah, it will be very good. Yeah. So I believe that Yapim was like that. So finally, we managed, to have big sums of money, yeah, that we can use, right, to help a lot of things. One of the things that we did was when Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia, which was also utilizing funds for the poor, right, to be given loans to the poor and so on. So one of the first bodies that actually gave money to Amanah Ikhtiar was Yapim. Yeah. Yapim gave, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was about 300,000 as capital sum, as loan capital. Yeah, as loan capital. And so you can use that money to give loans to the people. And Yapim's condition was this: as long as Amana Ikhtiar is existent, is operating, you can use the fund. But if it is closed, then return the fund, whatever is remaining only. You don't have to get back 300,000. If it remains 100, 100. That's what it was, the condition. So until now, in fact, that Yapim's fund is still with Aman Ikhtiar. So those people who contributed to Yapim, right, get the reward even now for many, many years. Imagine. Yeah? Because the money is always there. So this is what, we have to make people understand, to motivate them. Because you don't have to do every day. You just do once, and then after that, you get your reward all the time. Yeah. So those are, and I was also in the board of Amana Ikhtiar, in Yapim, in so many of those. That's why I said about 20.
In terms of challenges from Islamic banking, what was the initial or critical challenge that you would like to share? Interesting challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think when the first Islamic bank was established, it was announced by none other than Tun Mahathir. Yeah? Tun Mahathir was the one who announced the formation or the establishment of Islamic Bank, the Bank Islam, right? That was done in 1983, and it was actually established in August 1983, right? It was launched in August 83. And coincidentally, Islamic University was established, also announced by Tun Mahathir, right? In Shams in UAE. When he was coming back from London, he stopped there and he made the announcement that he wants to establish Islamic University, right? And he invited Muslim countries to participate. Yeah, but very few actually participated. So he had it in May in the same year. Imagine the effect of these two organizations. One requires the other. One requires the other. Islamic Bank requires personnel, good people, and that comes from IIUM. IIUM people require places of work, one of which is Bank Islam, and then Takaful, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So to me, it's coincidental, but it is something that is very, 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 very effective, very complementary, very, very complementary, these two. So, and they were in the same year. The difference is only 3 months. One in May, one in August,
And I was born in July.
Yeah.
That year was
So you can imagine,
three big things. No, I don't.
then what happened was, later on, many of the students in IIUM involved in Islamic banking sector in other countries as well. Many of them. For example, from Bosnia. Yeah, a lot of people from Bosnia involved in Islamic banking, later on. Yeah. And I must say that when I was in IKIM, I was asked to go to Albania you know. So I went to Albania with some people, and then without knowing what the mission was, you know. So I went. And then I was asked to go and see various ministers. Those days, Albania just started, The president was a professor of the university, and he became the president. And then most of the ministers were very young people. And I met a few of them, Minister of Economics, Minister of Trade, and so on and so forth. Then I learned a lot of things from them, by interviewing them. Then on my way back in the plane, I wrote a report. I wrote a report and made recommendations. Right? Number one recommendation, I said Petronas should go there for oil drilling. TNB should go for this what you call hydroelectric power. And then I said we should provide employment to many of them who were unemployed. Unemployment rate at that time in Albania was about 20 to 30%, very high. A lot of people were lining up the roadside, when we passed by. So I asked, why this? Oh, they are unemployed. So a lot of unemployment. So I recommend that the government take them to work in Malaysia, and then give them scholarship to attend University Islam, you know. And then when I came back, the EPU asked me for the report, So I gave the report. And turned out, 2-3 weeks later, I went to immigration department. I saw the immigration officer who was my student actually. He was doing some job on passports, I said, what's that? This is Albanian passports. They are coming to work. So PM Mahathir at that time, actually followed my advice. And then UIA took 50 students. Yeah, 50. I said 50.
In the report, you said 50
Yeah.
students.
At least 50. Is it? To me at that time, I felt I could do so many things. So many things, That one, I did not know the purpose of me going there. I just came back and wrote the report. And then they say, what is the report? Huh? Oh, likely I wrote.
Okay. We talk about talent pool, right? In Islamic finance. Do you think that currently Malaysia we have sufficient talent to drive the industry Islamic finance forward? And where do you see gaps in terms of human resources in Islamic finance?
I think, way back in 90s, almost every university in this country, particularly public universities, right, they started teaching Islamic economics. They started having Islamic economics programs, Bachelor of Islamic Economics, all sorts of things. But a lot of undergraduate programs in Islamic economics were mushrooming. Yeah. And after UIA was there, So many of them could not get jobs. Why? Because most of the banks and Takaful companies, they were more interested to get people with experience. So immaterial whether those people with experience from the conventional or Islamic doesn't matter. As long as they have some experience in the industry, they will be very happy to take them rather than those people with knowledge without experience. So those people found difficulty in getting jobs. What I'm trying to say is that no doubt we have a lot of people, who have such qualifications. But at the same time, we don't have people with practical experience. We don't have that people with practical experience, which is actually preferred by the Islamic banking or Takaful companies. So this is what happened. In fact, I add this view to the governor, deputy governor of Benegara and all that. I said, it is a fact. even in the, say 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it's still a fact.
But it becomes a chicken and egg.
Yes, yes. Too many. Too many. Every university has it. So there are so many of them. Supply is over the demand. Demand is not there. Yeah. So this is the problem. And most of the banks, for example, most of them, the conventional sector is the dominant sector. The Islamic sector is not the dominant sector. Islamic sector is always the smaller one. The conventional is always the bigger. So the number of staff that they engage in the conventional is more than the number in the Islamic. And more so when they also transfer some of those people from conventional to Islamic. So that is another problem. When I was in SEAP, I used to be on the board of Maybank Islamic. I encourage them to send some of their staff to do masters and so on in SEAP. Yeah. My thinking is this. You have people with Sharia who join banks and so on to become a Sharia member, Sharia committee member, right? Sometimes they become Sharia officer, right? But that's what they can do, right? They cannot do anything else, because their background is from Sharia. Those people with Islamic, with finance or economic background, then they can do all sorts of other branches of the banks and so on, but they cannot go into Sharia. Yeah. What is really required is a combination of both. In other words, a person with Sharia background, but at the same time have knowledge in finance, have knowledge in economics and so on. Yeah. And I must say that one of those places that have this kind of integration is INSEAD. I don't think there is any other institution apart from INSEAD for a long time, except INSEAD to have that integration. And I can see that those are the graduates who will be very, very useful. Yeah, because they can do anything. They can go into Sharia. They can also go into other parts of banking or other parts of Takaful and so on. So this is what you require. So that is the real gap, I think, to me.
I think that's why I think even with ASAS, we have the CSA, Certified Sharia Advisor, and the Certified Sharia Practitioner program to bridge the gap between the ones with Sharia and the ones without Sharia background to learn about Sharia, and the ones without Sharia background to learn about Sharia. And I based on my experience as well, the lingo is different. The Sharia lingo, for me, I'm legal, so the legal lingo, these are two different lingos, and the ability to communicate between these two lingos will always be the value to oneself lah. If you, so then you can communicate, you can bridge the two the walls, In terms of Islamic finance, I'm coming back to Islamic finance again, right? What was your original vision of Islamic finance when you first mooted, or Islamic economics, when you first mooted the idea, when you first had the idea of or you were involved when you first started in Islamic finance? What was your idea about it? And now that you are you've not fully retired, right? You are just tired lah, not retired. At this stage, how is it different from, or how is it the same from what you had envisioned earlier on?
I think I must go back to some early part lah. The earlier part, most of the people wanted mudarabah rather than murabaha, right? Because they see mudarabah is more Islamic than murabaha. Okay. Then I do not know. I can't say this what do you call exactly, whether it really happened, but I had the hunch that Bank Islam started a little bit about Mudarabah, right? But they lost a lot of money. People don't pay back. So they stopped. They stopped the Mudarabah and go on with Murabah. This is what I think happened. So that is why when some people from my university started arguing with Dr. Halim those days, he was very, very angry. He was very, very angry. I think because of that. And I'm not one of those who always make him angry. Make him laugh all the time. Anyway, so that's one. And so when we talk about what I thought those days and what is happening today, to me, uh, I thought that when you talk about the banking, the only way at that time was to follow what conventional banking was doing, right? You imitate what conventional banking was doing. Why? Because the whole system is actually based upon the conventional banking. Like it or not, that is the fact, right? And so, if somebody goes to an Islamic bank and wanted to do something that he thought is available in Islamic bank, whilst it is always available the other side in conventional, he'll be very frustrated if it is not there. So that is why whatever is being done in conventional, you must always prepare something that is also for Islamic, so that people can actually go into Islamic without having frustration, not to have it. So that to me it was important here. But at the same time, we have to create something that is beyond that. In other words, it's not just the same product, but the product must be superior to that product. If you can create a product that is similar only, it's not enough. In other words, you create something that is superior to it. If you can create something superior to it, then obviously people will go for it. Example, when we talk about financing, right? I was also in MIDF.
Yeah. I was also in MIDF.
But after me.
The Alhabshi that took over the other Alhabshi. But the less superior took over the position. So
when I was there, I was in charge. I was the board member of the Asia Unit Trust, which was actually doing a lot of financing, for small scale industries, small firms and so on. So they come to MIDF for loans, right? Small loans. And when they come for loans, so I asked the officer in charge, I said, how many percent of the people who come for the loans are non-Muslims? To my surprise, the answer is 100%. Wallahi, I was surprised. How come it's 100%? Oh, very simple. Because they know exactly how much they have to pay every month. There is no, floating like in conventional. If the interest rate goes up, they go higher. If the interest rate goes down, they pay lower. But whereas in the Islamic, it's all the same. So no worry. That is why they go for Islamic. In other words, it is superior. So this is what I'm trying to say. In other words, if you can create something that is similar but better.
I think it started with the fixed rate, but now then they went back to
that's the wrong
floating,
thing.
the variable rates where you have the IBRA and everything.
That's the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing to do. To me, it's the wrong thing to do. Look at the history. Look at what happened before. It's 100%. I was told 100% loan from non-Muslims. So, what more you want?
Last night as I was preparing for this to be your moderator, it's a big task to interview such a giant figure. And I was afraid because if I interview other people, Then at the end of the interview, I go back to my own house, and then that fella can go back to the interviewee can go back. If I did something wrong, nothing happens. I just go back and we part ways. But with you, I'm going to be stuck for the rest of my life, and it will be and you can hit me also because of that. So that's why it's a very stressful task that I
Why
think.
did you take this task?
Because the CEO Encik Makta forced me to be the. But as I was thinking last night, there was one angle from home financing that I think the Islamic banks should take up as a something to improve. The current SPA, sale and purchase agreement that we have, all is 3+1, 3 months plus 1 month, but that plus 1 month is with interest. If you complete the SPA within the 1 month, there is the element of interest there. I was just thinking, Islamic banks should start with an incentive to say, if you come to us with SPA that is easily, let's say, just 4 months flat with no plus one, no interest, 4 months flat, which is completely Sharia compliant, Islamic banks will give you an incentive, either give you a 500 ringgit profit rebate, or to park in the cash 500 ringgit if you open an account with them, etc. Then the banks can push the real estate industry to make it Sharia compliant in relation to subsale for SPAs. That, I mean, I'm trying to moot the idea. I'm using this platform also, and I will go on to push this idea, which I think is going to be a significant advantage to Islamic banks to push for, because they need to be comprehensive end to end. But they are financing a house that is based on a riba based transaction. I mean just to carry on from your example of that, to be superior.
Yeah, I think that is superior. That is superior. Then, in Saudi, it seems that people borrowed money from the government to buy houses because the government would build houses for them. Then they start buying, and they have to pay monthly. If they were, suppose the loan is for 5 years, but if they pay very well for 4 years, then the last year, no need to pay. Like that. Of course, they have a lot of money.
They can
But,
just drill money and
but the point is, that should be the way. People get incentive at the end, Just like Takaful, when you buy the motor Takaful, if there is no claim, then you can get something back, isn't it? Not very much, but something back, Out of, say, 1,000 plus, you get maybe 50 ringgit back, every year, something like that, So then people feel happy, So this is good. But my comment is, recently I read that Takaful now is increasing or is improving because of the demand. Demand for Takaful is increasing. That's very, very interesting. Not in the past. In the past it was not so. But now it is on demand, which is very good. Yeah. So, but my only other point that I'd like to make is this: the re-Takaful. The re-Takaful is using the same principle as the Takaful. In other words, Takaful will depend a lot on the large numbers. The more people participate in that particular program, right, the better for the Takaful company. Because the more people participating, the number of accidents will be much less. So the payout by the Takaful company will be much less. So they will make more profits, right? So it depends a lot on the numbers. The re-Takaful also have the same model, and that is they go for numbers. In other words, instead of number of people participating in the Takaful company, when you go to re-Takaful, it is the number of Takaful companies that participate in the re-Takaful. How many Takaful companies are there? If they depend a lot on the Takaful companies, they will not go anywhere. At this point, you find that most of the re-Takaful is not doing very well. Most of the re-Takaful companies are not doing very well. I happen to be on one of the Sharia boards for the re-Takaful, so I know. They're not doing very well. You know, why? Because of that model. I think they should not go for that model. They should go for a different model. To me, the model could be the number of cases, similar cases of that particular risk. For example, you talk about plane crash, then you talk about not number of Takaful companies coming with plane crash, but number of plane crashes that take place anywhere else. So if you have, say, 2 or 3 Takaful companies to insure you re-Takaful on plane crash, right? Then the risk is on plane crash, right? From this company, that company, that company, you add that together. That's how you get the numbers. But if you take based on Takaful companies, you can never get the numbers.
Number of Takaful companies.
Yeah, very small. And it's so much so that now they have to depend upon the strength of, for example, the Swiss Re, the big Re companies, Swiss Re, Munich Re, all those companies, because they happen to have the Islamic window. So the what do you call, the regulators say it's okay to have this, because they have their strength. The Munich Re has the strength because of their business, not because of the Islamic, but because of the business. So they can become the Takaful of the Takaful. So to me, that has to be looked into.
So maybe from that, those are few examples from 1970s that you had the idea, and then now you're looking at it in 2024, and you see, are you satisfied with where we are now?
I think not really. Not really, because okay, I think something that is quite big. You see, the dominant what do you call sector is still the conventional until now. You find that the monetary policy of the government is still depend upon the conventional, not the Islamic, right? At one time, I used to say that the rate of growth of Takaful and banking, Islamic banking, is higher than the rate of growth of the conventional, right? Because of the high rate of growth. It was about 15% compared to 3 or 12%. So I said the rate is so big. The difference is so big. So there might be a time when the Islamic uh, sector will become as big or become as bigger or near to the size of the conventional. Right. In other words, there might be a time when the Islamic sector is bigger than the conventional. Right. It may happen. I don't know. I used to also tell people in Khazana. I used to tell the CEO of Khazana. I said, why is it that your GLCs, because GLCs are all under Khazana. I said, your GLCs, they only do Islamic when they want to borrow from Sukuk. Otherwise, all their money is in conventional. Why can't they transfer from conventional to Islamic? You can imagine the amount of money that they will transfer into Islamic. Then the Islamic sector will grow tremendously. Tremendously. Right? But now they are looking at Islamic only for sukuk. The rest, why only they borrow money, they want Islamic. Otherwise, they don't want Islamic. So I told the CEO, and the CEO told the CFO, please organize a meeting, but never organize meeting.
I think certain things is the utopian idea and the practical or aspect of it is very difficult to achieve it.
I don't know. No, that's one thing. But I think one important thing is, what is your aspiration? What is your internal aspiration? If your internal aspiration is there, then you will do everything to ensure that your internal aspiration is achieved. That's very important. That's where I said just now the Quran is very important.
Oh, you weaved it back to the original
Yeah.
point. Uh, this is better than Donald Trump weaving. You have come back to full circle in this podcast. So I think we will go we are at the tail end now. I will release you of this obligation very soon. We have some final few other questions. We started with some history, we reminisce with some success stories, some challenges, we stirred some gaps between the utopian and the reality, and we also embrace the people aspect of Islamic finance. Now, my among the last few questions, what would be your advice that you would like to impart to Islamic finance practitioners who are passionate about contributing to the industry's growth? What's to our ASAS members who may comprise of Sharia and non-Sharia people, but are involved in the Islamic involved in Islamic finance, be it Takaful or even in banking. What's your advice to our members, ASAS members?
I think one of the things is how to attract the non-Muslims to join the Islamic sector. How to attract the non-Muslims, like we did before in the financing, right? What about the other things? That is the crucial thing, because the moment they can support or they can give support, I think the Islamic sector will grow very fast, very, very fast. Yeah. So that is one thing that is still not. I mean, I'm not satisfied with it. I'm not satisfied completely. That can be done, I think. But
More to be done in
have
that
to be
aspect.
done. Very hard but difficult. Difficult but must be done. Bit by bit. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, I think even among the Muslims, I think if we can convince all the Muslims, you can imagine, you know, yeah. But there are still people who feel, it's always cheaper to go to conventional bank. It's always the same. Lately, I heard on YouTube, he said, the Islamic banking is haram. Oh boy. After all these years of the Sharia scholars, thought so seriously about it, and then you say it is haram. Come on. They just change profit to interest, interest to profit. Oh boy. Mm. So that's number one. Number two, I think the knowledge. The knowledge, three areas. Just now I said two, I think three. Law, Sharia, and economics and finance. These three should be integrated. You should integrate these three. Not necessarily in every aspect, you know. You should integrate all three in aspects that you can. Maybe in banking, maybe in takaful, maybe in finance, whatever. But not necessarily all, because you cannot have all anyway. Cannot do all. So one at least. Otherwise, because that is the only way to come up with new things, to innovate. You have to innovate new things. Yeah. The other thing is, I forgot to mention. I started, but I didn't finish. I started by saying that the conventional sector is now dominant, but eventually it may not become so dominant. All the policies, monetary policies, fiscal policies, everything are still on the convention. When is the government converting those policies into Islamic? When? Are they going to wait until tomorrow? When you need it tomorrow, then only you start doing it. No. You should prepare now. I think you should prepare now. And there are too many what do you call thesis done in INSEF towards that. and I think that can be done, can be used. So to me, that is very important as well. Do not leave it like that until the end, and when we find that we need it and we don't have it. Just like last time when we started Islamic economics, we don't have anything. Same thing now. When we want to do it, we have to prepare for it. So maybe the government people may have to think about it.
We will make sure that we send this link to the appropriate people to consider. I think, I mean, I've always mentioned that the conventional banking is like the immovable object, and Islamic finance is the unstoppable force. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? That's taken from the Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight movie, but it's still applicable for as an analogy. You mentioned about law. I just wanted to ask, in the current Islamic Finance Committee of the Bar Council, we have myself, we have Dr. Aida Othman, and we have Jal Othman. Do all Othman always produce lawyers involved in Islamic finance?
Maybe.
Okay. Seems to be quite high statistics of Othman's producing legal Islamic finance practitioners, especially in Malaysia. One of my last question, if
Hopefully.
that hopefully is if you could turn back time and actually second last question, if you can turn back time and change something in relation to Islamic finance, etc., or Islamic economics, right? Let's not go too broad. Let's go specifically to your experience in Islamic economics and Islamic finance. What would you have changed, or would you not change anything, or what would you have changed now that you have the foresight to of the outcome? What would you have changed, or would you not have changed anything to improve the situation?
I think one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ said, that there comes a time when you can't avoid riba completely. There comes a time when you cannot avoid riba completely. You will at least get the dust of riba. In other words, you have some splinters of riba. In other words, one of the things that must be seriously thought of is how to eliminate riba. How to eliminate riba completely. Yeah. And that is something that I think should be done. Difficult, but don't you think it should be done? I think it should be done. When I was teaching Islamic economics, and I went to, I was very dynamic.
And agile as well.
I was in UIA. Suddenly, I was told to go to UUM. When I went to UUM, I told the people who teach economics, you know what? I said, you please tell the students that riba is haram. Before that, they never say that. Wallahi, they never say that. I said, just say riba is haram. And then they said, what will happen? I said, what will happen? They will say, why? And then what happened? What happened? You will have to learn. And that's how actually, just that, it turns out that UUM was the first university in the country who started teaching ethics as a course. And ethics is part of, Islamic ethics is part of it. So we had the course on ethics, which combines also Islamic ethics, and then followed by other universities. But just by starting with riba is haram. You see that is a great example, to me. You just say that, tell them that. Then they will ask you questions and you will have to answer. And one fellow said, one of the deputy dean happened to be a Chinese. He told me, well, if we have this Islamic ethics and so on, who is going to teach? Well, we make sure that somebody will teach. If nobody teach, I will teach. I mean, to me, it's always, the challenge is always there, but whether you face it or not. If you face the challenge, you will find the answers. Yeah. And you must be God conscious, Allah conscious. If you're Allah conscious, Allah will help you. Yeah. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Those who fear Allah, Allah will make the ways easy. Will make it easy for them to go on. Yeah. All the forward, I mean, the ways forward will be easy for them. Yeah. So that's the principle.
Towards the last end bit, I'm very lucky to have had you as a role model, and I think I've tried to emulate, but not completely successful. But alhamdulillah, but at least there is a very close role model for me to try to emulate. In fact, when you mentioned about code of ethics, I think now I'm also teaching code of ethics for ASAS, etc. Maybe they were looking at what you have done, and then now their ASAS is forcing me to do whatever the same. But the point where I want to arrive at is that we have a lot of members who are young and who are beginning to build their family, right? They are in the Islamic finance, they're working in Islamic finance sector and capital markets, etc. But they are building their own family, etc. They are starting to have children. How did you or what would you be your advice to them to instill the understanding of either Islamic finance or Islamic economics into the family that they are now upbringing?
Few things. Number one, teach them Quran. Imagine if you are the first person to teach a boy or a girl, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He will use it so many times later. Don't you think you will get the reward for that? Just Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. What more you teach them Fatiha? What more you teach them the whole Quran? Every time he recites the Quran and so on, you get the reward. That's the biggest motivation, number one. Number two, to me, it was easier for me to control my own children, but not to control my grandchildren. But to control my children, very easy. I remember very well that every time when my children were going to afternoon school, right? I used to fetch them home from the school at about 6 o'clock. Yeah? So by the time they arrive home, it will be about 6:30 or so. I said by 6:45, everyone, there were 3 in the car, everyone must be ready after your bath. Go and take your bath, 6:45 or 7 the latest, you must be ready. Every day I make it a point to remind them. And they have to do it. Why? Because at 7, they have to pray with me. When they pray with me, they finish, they have to do the Quran. After the Quran, all of them must come for dinner together. That was what I did every day.
You use the pen.
I use the pen to teach them Quran or pencil. The moment they repeat the same sentence 3 times, they get a no. I allow only twice. More than 2, finished.
And then tears will start to roll, and then the Quran will be very blur. And then that's the end of that recitation for the night.
But alhamdulillah, all of them khatam with me. All of them. So, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that that is very important. Then you control them in terms of their practices. Yeah? Make sure that they do certain things, like they wash themselves, they get ready for Maghrib. Maghrib is very short, yeah? And then they must pray together, they must have dinner together, you know. And at dinner, they can say anything they like, you know. Everybody is free, you know. And so early morning, I have to wake them up, and so on. Some of them I find difficulty to wake them up. So anyway, so these are things that we need to do. And once in a while, bring them out. You know, once in a while, not all the time, and make sure that you don't bring them out at about Maghrib time. Don't go shopping at Maghrib time. No, I feel so shy if I'm shopping during Maghrib. Very shy. You know. Just remember when I was in the UIA, I was the dean of the metric at the time, and then the rector came at 6:45 to the metric campus and saw some of the boys were playing football. You know, 6:45. The time I think the Maghrib must be about 7:15. You know, so then he came to me and the next morning and said, "How come your students were playing football at 6:45?" So I asked him, "What did you do at 6:45 there?" He cannot answer me. I always follow this approach. I better scold my superior rather than my inferior. Yeah, I don't scold people below me, but I scold people above me. There was one time I was giving a lecture to one of the deputy rectors in IIUM. For half an hour, I was talking to him, standing, you know, by the wall, talking to him, scolding him. And I was supposed to start a meeting, faculty meeting. So half an hour late. So when I came back, then I told them, you know, I was scolding him. They all laughed. Okay. But I don't scold those people, you know. Because if you scold those people, they will be very frustrated, you know. Whereas those people are different. I always do the opposite thing. You know, one day one of my friends from Egypt, he told me, a friend of his, a friend asked some elderly person in Egypt, what should I do in order to be successful in life? So this old man told him, whatever people do, you do the opposite. For example, they come to office late, you come early.
Oh.
Right? And then if they go home early, you go home late. Uh, you know, and so on, you know. So then you'll be very successful. True. Anyway, okay.
Any other advice on
For the
children?
child,
Children.
I think
Quran, and then
the
how
Quran
do
and
you
then the
instill?
practice, you know, the
Because
practice.
I remember that you did not give me that much money, pocket money when I was young. But then I realized you are an economist, so you always taught me how to be economical with finances. So maybe you can torture other children as well with that principle.
Depends on how much you have, you can give, but not too much. I don't think you should give too much. Tun Tan Siew Sin was the first minister, second minister of finance. His father was very rich, you know, and he had a rubber estate. So what the father did to him was, he has to work as a rubber tapper first. Then he goes up. What it means is that you must learn the business before you can tell people what to do. So the same thing, do the hard way, not easy way all the time. When everything is easy for you, you don't feel anything later on. You must feel the hard way. Yeah? And I used to walk to school, you know, although there is a bus, but I rather walk because the bus always late. I reach school late, so I walk first.
Do the opposite.
Yeah, do the opposite.
Okay. I think Haji Makta, Encik Makta has already indicated that
Yeah, time's up.
we are wasting their film. So maybe you have any closing remarks, final remarks to ASAS or to and the ASAS members and our viewers who are watching this.
I think most important is to make people happy, right? Don't make people sad. As long as you make people happy, people will be close to you. But if you make people sad, you scold people and so on, they will run away from you, right? And those people who when people run away from you, when a lot of people run away from you, that's a very bad sign also. Yeah? Because the more people who come to you, the better sign for you. What is the sign? Sign is Allah loves you. Allah loves you. There are 4 things that you can think of which makes Allah loves you. Number 1, if Allah loves you, He will encourage you to do all the good things. You will be happy to attend, for example, the mosque for prayers. You will be happy to attend a funeral. You will be happy and so on to attend the good things. Allah will encourage you to do. That is one of the signs that Allah loves you. Number 2, do you accept what Allah gives you? If you accept what Allah gives you, and Allah will always give you more. Right? Rida maridai. Right? You must rida, you must accept whatever Allah gives you. Right? Don't complain. Yeah. That is also the second one. If you accept, then Allah will give you more. Allah will be pleased with you. Third one, Allah will feel pleased when your parents are pleased with you. And He is angry when your parents are angry with you. So make sure you look after your parents. 3. 4th, when people, the public, right, love you, and a lot of people come for your janazah, for example, that's a very good sign. Yahya Sinwar was told 7 million people prayed for his janazah. Yahya Sinwar. 7 million. Right? Even if one person prayer is accepted, enough. Not 7 million. One enough. So you can imagine. So if that is the case, then definitely Allah loves him. Yeah? So what is important is to make people happy. One of the ways to make people happy is to crack a lot of jokes. Yeah? Which used to be my forte. But now no more. Now cannot.
How come? What happened?
Forgot already.
We have our guest, second guest, Encik Makta. who has been fidgeting from
waiting.
earlier on, waiting to wanting to join the podcast.
Well, Alhamdulillah. Basically, this is the request that we have made. I think a year.
A year,
Yeah, a
actually a year.
One after another, I'll keep on polishing, keep on reminding Dr. Syed Adam about the importance of having this session.
Not my diary. It's his
Yeah,
diary.
it's his diary, I know.
So I said he's not retired.
Okay. What we want to share is basically to make sure that we also indirectly want to tell people or tell the Ummah that Islamic finance has already moved to the second generation.
Yeah.
You know, from Prof. Syed to Dr. Syed now. Maybe we have a lot of second generation Islamic finance practitioners who not only inherit the career but also continue to push, continue to pursue the dream, the wishes, something that have been started by the first generation. I'm sure if we will come across, ASAS will not only try to bring the people who started Islamic finance, we will also have this kind of Walid and Anak session, so that we want to portray that Islamic finance has moved into the second generation. We want to make sure to tell the people that this is something good that we inherit from our father, from our grandfather, maybe. I came across a few. The father, Allah Yarham, Dr. Mumin. Yeah, the son is now the head of Sharia in RSB. I have a few other examples. I'm sorry if I can't mention everything, but I know that the father, Tan Sri Daud Bakar, for that matter, the son now is in Islamic Finance Advisory in Dubai. I can go a long list, one after another, but we will start with Dr. Syed Adam and Prof. Syed first, and then we will continue to have this kind of discussion.
Moving forward, you should do the opposite. Let the father interview the son, but after me, not me, not me.
Alright.
Let
The second one will be
the next generation.
Okay. Alright. I'll take that note. I'll take note on that, and inshallah. So again, thank you, Prof. Thank you, Dr. Syed Adam, for having us or for being here to continue Very Asas podcast. So this is why we name this podcast as Very Asas. Could be very fundamental, could be very basic, could be very important foundation. And how inshallah we will move forward. We will keep on reminding everyone. Hopefully Allah will also keep on reminding us, the ASAS member, and also the Ummah keep on reminding ASAS that we have to continue what we're supposed to do, inshallah, for the betterment. Start something, make it better. Inshallah, whatever we are doing is part of our amalan. That later on will become better, will become purified. May Allah give us the right reward, even to Prof. Syed, to Dr. Syed Adam, for whatever that you have done. I'm sure there are a lot of things that we never heard of the first of everything. and hopefully this is not the last interview. Maybe later on I will take over the moderator and ask you more technical question as and when you are available in your diary. So this is technically my calendar invite, put in your in your diary, and inshallah. So Dr. Syed Adam, if you have any last thing.
I'm just glad that this podcast went well, and I won't get knocked when I go back home. I think I've done a good job in saving myself.
Excellent.
Asking the hard question, but not put me in difficult situation.
Exactly. I wanted to do the introduction by saying that be kind to each other. All right. So thank you very much. Again, look forward for more podcasts from Very Asas, insyaAllah. And we will continue to do our best. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Wallahu a'lam bishawab.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Thank you very much.